Every war comes with a fight about the war. Was it justified? Was it oil? Which president lied? Which party voted yes? Which general wanted another star on his shoulder? The cable panels light up. The protest signs go up. Everyone picks a side. They scream at the politicians and the arms makers who built the bombs. That fight is the cover. Because the argument over whether to fight was never where the money got decided. The bombs are the loud part. The loud part is cheap. While the country splits itself in half over morality, the real money is already leaving. It moves quietly. It moves legally. It goes through a door nobody in the argument is watching. It does not care who wins the war. It does not care who wins the election. It got paid the moment the first dollar was borrowed. Watch where it goes. Start with the names you already hate. Lockheed Martin, RTX, the company that used to be Raytheon, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, Boeing. 5 firms swallow the largest share of a defense budget. That budget now runs past $800 billion a year. Point at them. Everyone does. They build the visible thing, the jet, the missile, the ship. They collect tens of billions for it. They are the operators. They are also the decoy. Look at one program and you can see the whole appetite. The F-35 fighter built by Lockheed carries a projected lifetime cost. It is around $1.5 to $1.7 trillion. That is once you count the decades of flying and fixing it. One aircraft program, larger than the entire annual economy of most nations on Earth. Go down one layer. Under the primes sits the ecosystem that bills for everything the primes do not want to touch. The fuel, the food, the laundry, the barracks, the truck convoys. In Iraq, that work ran through KBR, spun out of Halliburton, on logistics contracts worth tens of billions. And sitting above those firms are the private equity houses, Carlyle, Cerberus, Veritas Capital. They do not build weapons. They own the companies that do, and they take a margin on every bolt. Now go to the top, the layer nobody protests. A war is not paid for out of a checking account. It is borrowed. Every dollar of it becomes a treasury bond. It is an interest-bearing asset held by banks, funds, and foreign governments. It pays out for decades. The weapon is spent in an afternoon. The debt is forever. Here is the machine underneath it. When you or I buy something, a higher price is bad for us. In defense procurement, a higher price is often good for the seller. This is because of a structure called cost plus. Under a cost plus contract, the contractor is reimbursed for what it spends. Then they are paid a fee on top. Spend more and the fee grows with it. Efficiency is punished. The overrun is the business model. The government asks for a jet. They sign a contract where getting it wrong pays better than getting it right. And the sale is not even the prize. The prize is what the industry calls sustainment. It is the decades of spare parts, maintenance, software, and upgrades. The initial buy is the down payment. The sustainment is the annuity. On a program like the F-35, the cost of operating the fleet dwarfs the cost of building it. You do not sell a weapon. You sell a subscription the military can never cancel. The words to know. LOGCAP, the Logistics Civil Augmentation Program. This is the pipeline where one company is handed the entire logistical tale of a war. Sole source, no competitor allowed to bid. Book-to-Bill, the ratio of new orders to deliveries. When a war starts, it climbs. The backlog swells. Wall Street re-rates the stock upward on the promise of guaranteed billing. There's even a name for starting work before anyone agrees on the price. An undefinitized contract action. Build first. Argue about the cost later. The taxpayer is the counterparty who never gets to negotiate, and the part that should stop you cold. The Department of Defense has never passed a financial audit. Not one. Not since the audits began. It cannot fully account for its own assets. Trillions of dollars of them. And the appropriations arrive on schedule anyway. Sit with the structure. The soldier carries the physical risk. The contractor carries the reputational risk when a scandal breaks. And the party at the very top carries no risk at all. The one whose asset only grows as the borrowing grows. No mud, no hearings, no name in the paper, just a coupon that clears every quarter. It is funded by a public that will still be paying long after the flags come home. So why does the country keep staring at the wrong layer? Because the misdirection is engineered, and it is engineered in plain sight. Defense contracts are spread across as many congressional districts as possible. A single fighter program will source parts from dozens of states. That is not inefficiency. That is insurance. It means cutting the program threatens jobs in enough districts that no coalition can ever hold. The weapon is designed to be uncancelable before it is designed to fly. Then there is the Revolving Door. The general who oversees a weapons program retires. He joins the board of the company that builds it. The congressional staffer who writes the defense bill becomes a lobbyist for the firms it funds. Watchdogs have documented hundreds of former officials walking straight into the industry they used to regulate. The referee changes jerseys at halftime. And every reform that reaches the public is aimed at the surface. Should we have fought this war? Was this contractor greedy? Did this official lie? All real questions, all beside the point. None of them touch the financing structure. That structure guarantees the lender gets paid whether the war is won, lost, or abandoned. You are invited to argue about the morality of the mission. You are never invited to argue about who holds the note. The debt gets quietly rolled onto a generation that never got a vote. 2 moments from the record. Watch who gets punished and who walks. The first, the 1930s. America looks back on the First World War, sickened. They go hunting for the people who profited from the slaughter. A Senate committee led by Gerald Nye spends 2 years dragging arms manufacturers into the light. DuPont, the shipbuilders, the powder makers, they are branded the merchants of death. The public is enraged. Congress passes the Neutrality Acts to stop it happening again. The arms makers take the reputational beating. But the firm that had underwritten the Allied war effort, J.P. Morgan and Company, absorbed no equivalent blow. Morgan had served as the purchasing agent for Britain and France. They arranged the $500 million Anglo-French loan of 1915. They took a commission on the money raised and the goods bought. The men who sold the guns were paraded. The house that financed the war kept its franchise. The decoy was punished. The banker was not. The second. Go back further to the Napoleonic Wars. Watch a family install itself at the exact center. Nathan Mayer Rothschild became the British government's bullion contractor. He moved the gold that paid Wellington's armies. He financed a war that killed millions. He buried a generation of European taxpayers under debt. When the smoke cleared, the men who fought were dead or broke. The states that fought were mortgaged. The Rothschilds emerged as the dominant financiers of the 19th century. They were the private bank governments came to when they needed to borrow. The crowd was wiped out. The lender to the crowd became the most powerful financial dynasty in Europe. Same pattern, a century apart. The soldiers pay in blood. The taxpayers pay in decades. The contractor occasionally pays a fine. And the party holding the paper is never in the frame when the bill comes due, because the paper is the whole point, and it survives every war that made it. So here's the final ledger. The public borrows to fight. The contractor bills cost plus, sells the subscription, and pockets the margin. But the asset that outlives the war is the debt, and the coupon on that debt is paid forever to whoever holds the paper. Who pays? The soldier, the taxpayer, and the taxpayer's children? Who collects? The shareholder who owns the prime and the bondholder who owns the war. Put a number on it. Brown University's Cost of War project priced the post-9/11 wars at roughly $8 trillion. A swelling share of that is not weapons or wages. It is pure interest. Money that buys no rifle and saves no life. It is projected to run into the trillions on its own as the borrowing compounds. Interest is the one-line item that keeps billing after the last soldier is home. There is a dynasty that mastered this position before anyone else. The House of Rothschild. They understood that you do not need to win the war. You need to be the one the winners and the losers both owe when it is over. Every empire that ever marched came home to the same desk, hat in hand, to borrow for the next campaign. That is the trade. Wars end, the note does not. The system pays the party at the top of the ledger, never the crowd screaming about the flag, and never the kid who was told the flag was the reason he was there.